Howard showed up at 5:45, read the paper, had some breakfast, then we chatted for about 5 minutes, a day like any other. I didn't mention that I was seeing a shrink that afternoon, not a chance. I hadn't told my mother, my father, or my brother. I was not ready to share news like this on the show. At 6:01, Howard went on the air, and at 6:05 he called me into the studio. "What are you doing to your hair?" he asked. "Looks like you got caught in the rain." "I put gel in my hair," I said. Whenever you do something different, someone on the show will call you on it. The exhausting part is not knowing what different actually is. Do something radical, and you know you will get killed. I once shaved my mustache, and immediately everyone told me I looked terrible and that I should grow it back. I kind of expected that. But if I had any thought that putting gel in my hair that morning would warrant discussion on the air, I wouldn't have done it. In fact, I was wishing I hadn't. "You put way too much gel in," Howard said. "They put gel in my hair on the Fox After Breakfast show, and I liked it, so I wanted to try it," I said. We had done the Fox show to promote the movie Private Parts, which was based on Howard's book and had come out just 2 weeks earlier. It had debuted at #1. Being in the movie was a very happy thing for me. I went to the premiere with my parents, my wife, my brother, and sister-in-law. Mary and I walked the red carpet. Heady stuff for a radio producer. "It looks like you're lying on wet hair," Howard said. "It makes your teeth look bigger." "I think it looks okay," I said. "I'll go back to my regular hair tomorrow." Then I left. And this is the flip side of working at the show. Was Howard just breaking my balls, or was he doing me a favor? Was it good radio, or was it the truth? Sometimes hurtful things were said, and I'd talk to Howard during the break. He'd say, "I was just doing a bit." I still wouldn't know if what was said on the air was the truth, or what was said on the break was a lie. It's a labyrinth. But it's not why I needed to see a shrink. My appointment was late in the day. I allowed plenty of time to get downtown. I know that if you're late to see a psychologist, the whole appointment becomes about why you're late. Kerouac was on the corner of Madison Avenue and 56th Street, and Alan's office was in Greenwich Village, near New York University. I gave myself 90 minutes to get there because I wasn't sure if I'd find a parking spot. I was ready for the appointment and had been looking forward to it for 2 weeks. I was already convinced that peace of mind was just a handful of 50-minute sessions away, but I'd be lying if I said my parking obsession wasn't just another part of the neuroses that was sending me to Alan. I am always early. I don't like to be in a rush when going anywhere. I need to know where all the doors are, as they say, wherever I am. I like to scope out a scene. Surprises are not my thing. I grew up with lots of surprises, some of them nasty, every day. So things I can control, I tend to try and control. I crave predictability. For instance, my drive to work is full of checkpoints that keep me comfortable. I pull out of my garage in Connecticut at 4:50 every morning. At 5 a.m., as I get on Interstate 95 and turn on 1010 winds, if I hear the sports at 5:15 and I'm not on the Bruckner Expressway, I know I'm behind schedule. At 5:20, I turn on some music, and no later than 5:30, I pull into the garage at the Sirius XM offices. I am at my desk by 5:35. As I drove down Fifth Avenue to see Alan, I obsessed about the appointment. Who was this guy? What was he going to do? Was he going to ask me to lie on a couch with a piece of tissue under my head so I wouldn't get gel on the pillow? Would I click with him? What if I hated him? My friends who were in therapy told me I might have to see a few psychologists before I found one I clicked with. If that was true, then I'd have to talk to them again to find a new guy. Where was I going to park? I pulled up to the address. I was glad it was a residential building instead of a crowded office tower. It was white and old and had a flight of marble steps leading up to the door with white pillars on either side. I drove around the block looking for a place to park. I found a spot right away, which was a huge relief. Except then I had 20 minutes to kill. I sat in my car, listened to the radio, and thought about the appointment. I wondered who else might be in the waiting room. Would their something be more fucked up than my something? When I finally entered the building, it was eerily quiet. There was no doorman, no one walking around, just an elevator. When I got to the waiting room, there wasn't a receptionist, just some worn-looking furniture and framed posters of flowers on the walls. Across the room was a closed door, a mystery door leading to someplace else. I was alone, the only one with a fucked up anything in the whole place. And that's when I started wondering, what the hell are we going to talk about? I mean, I knew why I was there, but to get to that, we were going to have to talk about a lot of other stuff. Just then, Alan walked through the mystery door into the waiting room. My first thought was, hey, it's Judd Hirsch as the shrink in Ordinary People. He was in his mid-50s, wore glasses and comfortable shoes, and had a thick New York accent. The guy just looked New York to me. He reached out his hand. Gary? I was the only one in the room, so I stood up. Nice to meet you, he said. I followed him through the mystery door. We walked down a long, dark hallway with offices lining both sides. Each door had a sound machine in front of it running on static, so no one could hear what was happening on the other side. Alan's was the office at the end of the hall. My stomach buzzed with nerves, the good kind. I just couldn't help thinking that if the appointment went well, I was going to leave there feeling better. "Right in here," he said, pointing to his office. It was less luxurious than I expected, maybe even a little bit shabby. There was no oak library, no couch to lie down on, just a love seat opposite a leather chair that Alan plopped himself into. Then he leaned forward, rubbed his hands together like he was warming them up, and said, "So why are we here?" "Well," I answered, "many people sit on the love seat and tell you that their mother is crazy." I paused. "I have documentation." He laughed and said, "Okay." For the next hour, I told Alan my deepest, darkest secrets, things I'd never shared during a lifetime spent oversharing on the show. In fact, no one, not Howard, Rob, and Fred, none of the Stern regulars, truly knew how crazy my life was growing up. Let me tell you, becoming Baba Booey wasn't easy.
Chapter 1. War Heroes, Psych Wards, Mental Breakdowns, and My Mom.
I stood on the avocado green carpet of my living room in Uniondale, Long Island. My mom, Ellen, walked out of her bedroom carrying an overnight bag she just packed. Our house was a one-story ranch, and I watched her as she inched down the hallway toward the living room. She stopped just a few steps from me and bent down, practically kneeling on the carpet in her dress. She always cared about how she looked no matter where she was going. "Come here," she told me. I was 5 years old, and she wanted to tell me something face to face. I walked closer. She hugged me and said, "Mommy isn't feeling very well. I have to go away for a couple of days." I knew she cried a lot. I knew she screamed a lot. And I knew people didn't do those things unless something was wrong. I thought she was physically sick and going to a hospital to get better. My older brothers, Anthony, who was 13, and Stephen, who was 11, stood next to her. They knew what was really happening. So did my Aunt Marianne, who'd come over to watch us that afternoon. When my mom let go of me, she stood up, smoothed down her dress, picked up her bag, and followed my dad, Sal, out of the front door. They were headed for the psych ward at Syosset Hospital. My parents met in 1947 at Webster Hall, a dance place in Manhattan. He was 22, from Little Italy. She was 20 and from Bensonhurst in Brooklyn. "He walked up to me and asked me to dance," my mom once told me. I told him, "I heard about all you fellas from Manhattan. You're all a bunch of gangsters." And he said, "Yeah, I checked my gun at the bar." I thought, how sarcastic. That intrigued me. My friend Ann thought he was so cute. He reminded her of Humphrey Bogart. He had on a pinstripe suit and really did look like Humphrey Bogart. My mom was